Never use their expert. By their, I mean public insurance adjusters or insureds who have an insurance claim, and they're documenting their claim with their own expert. People have a right to do that. Public insurance adjusters have a right to do that. Insurance companies should never rely on a public adjuster's or an insured's expert opinion. Let me explain. You always want to consider expert opinions and any information that is submitted as part of a claim. But when you're dealing with a public insurance adjuster, most of whom in my experience are corrupt in that they deliberately seek to inflate the claim or create more damage than actually occurred, if any occurred accidentally. So when many of these public adjusters, when they are a part of the process that either involves setting up a claim for purposes of fraud or exaggerating a claim that occurred accidentally, but that they want to exaggerate in order to profit beyond the actual loss. Whenever you're dealing with a public insurance adjuster, you should always start out by understanding the danger that comes with their involvement and their use of experts, because they're not going to use an expert who disagrees with them. Never. They're going to first screen the expert, or they're already on the public adjuster's payroll or a part of the larger corrupt group of people that work together to defraud insurance companies. So all of these experts and people that work together for fraud, whether it's public adjusters, contractors, architects, engineers, attorneys, they know who the corrupt individuals are. And if they don't, they find out quickly. And what they'll try to do is not only use their own expert to define what they believe is the extent of the damage or the cost of the repair, they'll try to get rid of your expert. If your expert, the insurance company, also is entitled to obtain a third-party opinion about the cause or extent of damage, but not delay the claim for that, or to also not, an insurer is not allowed to seek out an opinion just for its position either, like many public adjusters do. The insurance companies, in my experience, though, more often than not, just want to settle the claim. So they're looking for an independent opinion from a reliable company that just says what they see or what they determine based on their investigation. But because public adjusters and so many other fraudulent entities are involved or associated with these claims, they know who will play ball and they know who will not play ball. And they will always try to push and use the ones who will play ball. They'll get their own opinion to try to establish their claim, contradict what the adjusters or the insurance company's contractors estimate is. And if you hire an expert to try to evaluate their expert's opinion or their estimate for repairs, if the person or firm you hire isn't one that plays ball with fraud, they will attack that person and make it seem like they're not qualified or they've had problems with them in the past, when the problems in the past almost always come from the exaggeration of the claim by the public adjuster or by the fraud that's committed by the people involved and the expert that they use that just tells them what they want to know. They're essentially just buying opinions. They're not looking to pay money to an expert to give them an objective view of the situation. That's too big of a risk. They're not going to get involved in a claim where they're paid a commission on the settlement unless they have control of that claim. And they don't have control of the claim if they don't have someone from whom they can buy an opinion and then use that to try to contradict whatever opinion the insurance adjuster may obtain. And then the question becomes whose expert is correct. And that's where you really have to have a seasoned adjuster and a reliable expert who really knows what they're doing so that they can point out the flaws and problems with the fraudulent expert, the one who's been bought off, who's bought and paid by the corrupt public adjusters, attorneys, and contractors and insureds. That's the only reason they're involved in that claim for the public adjuster. If, as an insurance company adjuster, you see an expert being promoted heavily by a public adjusting firm, more often than not, I'm here to tell you that you need to make a list of those people, because those are the people working for those corrupt entities, the corrupt public adjusters and contractors that set up these claims or exaggerate these claims to try to steal from the insurance company. And what some of the more corrupt and morally bankrupt public adjusting firms will do is they'll charge a massive fee, right? Not just for a denied claim or one where there's a lot more at risk, but right out of the gate, they'll charge massive fees, over 15, 20, over 25 or more % of the loss. And because they know they're going to try to inflate the claim so high that even if the insurance company doesn't pay the cost of their bought off expert, they can just pay them right out of the settlement. And what these same corrupt public adjusting firms do is lie to the insured, who may or may not be in on the fraud. And what they do to justify their exorbitant fee is say, well, we're paying for these experts, but they're not paying for the experts. They're charging the cost of the expert that they buy off to the insurance company. And they'll either actually submit the invoice for their own paid off expert, which the insurance company does not owe unless it was a necessary evaluation. They will also simply pay the expert out of the exorbitant fee, even if the invoice for the expert is denied. You see what I'm saying? Now, they'll tell the insured, well, if they don't pay the expert, our bought off expert's fee, we'll pay that. So, see, we're charging you an exorbitant fee in case we have to pay all these other costs. But they never have to pay those costs. They're just taking it out of the fee that's attached to the settlement. So you know who's paying all these extra costs? The insurance company. The corrupt public adjusting outfit that lies to everybody isn't paying anything. They're just charging it to the insurance company and then taking it from the settlement that's supposed to be based on the actual amount necessary to repair or replace the damage. How can you repair or replace the damage if a corrupt public adjuster is taking 20% or more of the settlement? Well, right there, you know that they were lying the whole time and claiming that that 20% was necessary, right? Because obviously, if it was used to pay off the public adjuster and the corrupt experts, it wasn't necessary to do the repairs, was it? So right out of the gate, you know that the cost of their fee is not necessary in order to get the repairs done. And essentially what that does is make insurance companies into paying the public adjuster's fee. And the only way that that's actually legitimate is if a public adjuster can show that things were omitted or missing or deficient, that the insurance company should have known and included. And so the differences are offset by the amount of the costs that were not included, and then less the fee. It still should come out to the benefit of the insured because the public adjuster did his or her job. The public adjuster didn't have to go buy an opinion and lie to the insurance company just to try to force them to pay more than they owe. A real public adjuster doesn't have to do that. A real public adjuster looks at the claim, determines what's missing or deficient, prepares a list, submits it to the insurer, and negotiates it. They don't get involved in these extended, protracted evaluations to try to inflate the claim so high that you can pay off everybody in the process, including corrupt criminal groups, most of whom are behind all of these fraudulent insurance claims. So corrupt public adjusters are actually serving as a means of money laundering in this whole corrupt operational chain. Because what they do is they just charge such a massive fee that they can then pay everybody for being a part of the fraud. But they're not paying anybody. It's the insurance company who's paying everybody because of the fraud committed by the public adjuster and or the insured or repair contractor. Eventually it can get to the attorneys as well, but that's a separate video. Right now I'm talking about why you never use their experts. Never. You review their experts' opinions. If they make sense and use objective facts and information, great. That's a real expert. If they're just a bought and paid for it expert who's compromised their own license and profession for some money under the table because of these corrupt people, never use that person. Make a list of those people that are associated regularly with these public adjusting firms and corrupt contractors, and then you'll start to see the relationship between these various entities. They're not working for these corrupt public adjusters because they're just nice people. They're doing it because they're corrupt too. And that's the only reason the corrupt public adjusting firm is using them. They're not just going to hire somebody and take a chance on their fraudulent claim, being reduced because they took a chance on an objective expert. They are going to find the expert that will tell them what they want, and they'll pay them to tell them what they want, regardless of whether or not it's true. And then they use that to get into this prolonged battle with the insurance company and claim their expert's correct, and eventually it can wear down an insurance company and or lead to a settlement of more than would have been paid had the public adjuster not found a corrupt expert to lie for them. You want to make a list of those people so you understand who they're working with, because the only reason a third-party expert would be working with a corrupt public adjusting firm is because that corrupt public adjusting firm went to them, paid them, and told them what they want. There's no way, in my experience, any public adjuster involved in fraud and crime would take a chance otherwise. So going into a claim with a public adjuster that you never use their expert. Never. You review what their expert says to determine if there's anything of value in it. And you never pay their expert separately unless you require the kind of investigation that was done. And if it was done correctly, you would then possibly consider it as reimbursable. But they're going to get you to not only pay an exorbitant amount on the claim, but they're going to try to get you to pay for their bought and fraudulent opinions from experts. And then they're going to try to get your expert removed from the claim, alleging various things, most of which are never true in my experience, but they just create such a controversy that many insurers who don't understand the depth of the fraud being committed relent and assign somebody else. That's basically just giving them what they want. And you're actually, by implication, in removing that other expert, agreeing with the corrupt entities that are telling you these things about the person or firm that may or may not be true. Either find out or do not listen to them. They will lie to you about everything, anything, because everything they're doing is in some sense based on a lie, a fraudulent claim. Never use their experts. Anytime they tell you your expert, they want your expert reassigned or removed because of a bad prior claim or different things that they don't think are credible, that's how you know you've got a good expert. You keep that expert. That's the kind of expert you stand behind, because that's the kind of expert that won't play ball with these guys. That's the expert you want. You want to preserve that expert because they're not giving in to the fraud and the games these other corrupt people play. And you want to make a list of the ones who play ball with these corrupt groups. Birds of a feather flock together. In my experience, that's always the case with these people. They can't take a chance otherwise. So you run into similar problems with adjusters too, where they'll allege things about an adjuster who won't play ball and try to get he or she removed, and someone more favorable, usually someone that they've placed in the insurance company. It's all about control. But we're going to do a separate video on the things that adjusters need to consider and that insurance companies need to really think more about, because your adjusters are under attack. They're under attack by criminal groups who infiltrate insurance companies, do background checks on adjusters, and who charge massive fees that they then bill to you on the claim so they can pay for fraudulent expert opinions, and then use that to further delay the claim and contradict your expert. So never use their expert under no conditions, even in appraisals, which is a form of arbitration in a first-party insurance policy, where if you have a dispute over the cost of the claim, you can retain your own appraiser and the other insurer in their party retain an appraiser, and then the two select an umpire. So even in those dispute situations, you're not required to use their expert. You hire yours, they hire theirs. There's no law, no regulation, nothing in the policy that requires an insurance company to use a public adjuster's or an insured's expert. We always consider what they have to say, but because of the corruption and fraud and the involvement, the games that are involved with the people that do these things, you cannot take a chance. You cannot risk anyone whom the public adjuster or an insured would suggest to you as an unbiased, objective professional. They may be. You can't take that chance. Hire your own expert. You have the right. And if you don't exercise that right, you will regret it later on. Hire someone who's reliable, who's reasonable, and who's going to give you an opinion that's based on the facts, and who's not going to play ball behind the scenes with these corrupt people. They have corrupted every profession and placed people in those professions so that they can utilize them when they need to. I mean, you've got, at these public adjusting firms, you've got failed attorneys with a law license. They're so terrible, they're adjusting claims without a license. So they'll do anything to try to get over on the insurance company, to try to busy up the insurance adjuster, even use attorneys who aren't licensed to adjust claims, So, and then of course they'll pay their own experts, have professionals compromise their license and standing, and good standing, I should say, all for a few extra dollars. You cannot take that risk as an insurance company because the games they're playing are getting more and more sophisticated. And the professionals that they're involving in buying off and using as front companies are increasing. And it's allowing this whole system of fraud to continue. And by not using their expert, and by using your own expert, and by holding public adjusters and insureds accountable to the timelines and requirements of the policy and state laws and regulations, you can try and avoid the catastrophe that often results from fraudulent insurance claims.